Chapter 8 The Dragon Who Came to Dinner. Mary Lou Hutton stood in Jeremy's doorway, staring at him with wide blue eyes. Though her lips were moving, nothing came out. "What are you doing here?" he demanded furiously. Mary Lou found her voice at last. "You've got a dragon!" "That's none of your business. Why are you—" Then it hit him. "You mean you can see her?" Before Mary Lou could answer, Jeremy was distracted by Tiamat launching herself into the air. He winced as a sharp pain shot through his shoulder. At first, he thought the dragon's claws had caused it, but when he pulled back the neck of his t-shirt, he saw that the skin underneath was unmarked. He cried out as another jab of pain shot along his arm. What was going on here? Turning to Tiamat, he noticed that the dragonlet was favoring her right wing, flying with a limp, so to speak. Being linked into her head, he was sharing her pain. He rubbed his shoulder in relief when Tiamat settled on top of the door to stare down at Mary Lou. "It's beautiful," said Mary Lou. "Only it's kind of scary." "It's not an it," said Jeremy. "It's a she. And how come you can see her?" Mary Lou looked puzzled, and Jeremy realized it had been a stupid question. How would Mary Lou know why she could see the dragon, when she didn't even know that she shouldn't be able to? But stupid question or not, he needed an answer. Of all the people in the world Tiamat might have revealed herself to, why did she choose Mary Lou Hutton? "I love dragons," said Mary Lou, as if she were answering him. Jeremy stared at her in surprise. Had she just read his mind? Since she was still gazing at Tiamat, Jeremy decided Mary Lou's comment had been nothing more than talk. Then he wondered if Mary Lou had accidentally answered his question anyway. Did loving dragons have something to do with being able to see them? Or had Tiamat just been so distracted by shedding her skin that she had forgotten to make herself invisible? "You're the first person besides me who's been able to see her," said Jeremy. Mary Lou took far more pleasure in this fact than did Jeremy. "Wow," she said, her face glowing. "That's neat. Where did you get her anyway?" "I don't think I'm supposed to tell. Besides, it's none of your business. And you still haven't told me what you're doing here." "I came to see if you were all right." Jeremy stared at her, waiting for her to explain. "Well, when I was coming back from the girls' room, I saw you go rushing out of the school. You had such a terrible look on your face. I decided to follow you. When I got here, the front door was wide open. I thought maybe something horrible had happened, so I came in." She paused. "Are you okay?" Jeremy wanted to tell Mary Lou to stop asking questions and scram, but the fact that she had seen Tiamat made him feel, oddly, that she had some kind of right to be here. "Are you okay?" she repeated. "I'm not sure. Something was wrong with Tiamat." An image flashed into his mind. Jeremy closed his eyes. In his head, he saw Tiamat rolling her shoulders as she tried to shed her skin. "Jeremy!" cried Mary Lou. "What are you doing?" Jeremy opened his eyes. He had been rotating his shoulders as if he was trying to shed his own skin. He blushed. This nonverbal communication of Tiamat's was starting to get out of hand. Tiamat was shedding, he explained. It frightened her. Another image came into his head. But that wasn't all. While she was trying to get out of her skin, my dog, Grief, came through the door to investigate. "Did he hurt her?" asked Mary Lou breathlessly. Jeremy shook his head. "I doubt it. He's trained to leave the animals alone. But I bet he tried to pick her up. After all, he's a retriever," and Jeremy broke off as Tiamat began sending him images of the wild scramble that had followed Grief's entry into the room. He was appalled by the dragon's ferocity. No wonder Grief was hiding under the table. He shook his head to clear it. "The whole thing was my fault," he said, blushing a little. "I tried to keep the door closed, but I guess I had so much on my mind this morning that I didn't pull it tight. Thank goodness I gave Tiamat her milk before I went to school. No telling what she might have done to Grief if she hadn't been feeling sluggish." "Milk?" "It keeps her calm," said Jeremy. He paused, then added, "Listen, Mary Lou, you have to promise not to tell anyone about this." Mary Lou looked offended. Of course I won't tell anyone. I know how these things work. Jeremy remembered their conversation about books the day Mary Lou had followed him home from the library. Maybe if someone had to find out about Tiamat, it was just as well that it was someone like her. But Jeremy's good feelings about Mary Lou vanished when she asked, "What are we going to do now?" "We aren't going to do anything," he snapped. "This is my problem. What you're going to do is go away." "I just wanted to help," said Mary Lou, her lip trembling. "I don't need your help," said Jeremy. "No one invited you to come barging in here." "Well, excuse me for caring," yelled Mary Lou. Turning, she ran out of the room. Jeremy listened as she raced down the stairs and out the front door. "Oh, shut up," he said when Tiamat sent her question feeling. He was confused. Tiamat was all right. Mary Lou was gone. He should be happy. So why do I feel so lousy? He wondered. He decided to work on his room. Tolerant as his mother was of his usual mess level, there was no way she was going to let him get away with this. Maybe I'll at least find Miss Priest's book, he thought, as he pulled the sheet back onto the bed. But after nearly 3 hours of work, he hadn't found the slightest trace of the book. He was upset, both because he really wanted to read it, and because he was worried about what Miss Priest was going to do if he couldn't find it. He had a feeling it was very valuable. As if things weren't bad enough already, that night at supper his mother reminded him that the Huttons were coming to dinner on Sunday. The only good thing about the whole day was the beautiful colors Tiamat set into his head as he was going to sleep. "What's the big deal anyway?" asked Jeremy on Sunday afternoon as he watched his mother prepare for the dinner party. "You'd think the president was coming or something." "Don't be silly," said Mrs. Thatcher. She flipped the pie dough she was working on and pressed it lightly with her rolling pin. "I just want to make a nice meal." "And I want you to be on your best behavior, Buster," said his father, who happened to wander into the kitchen at that moment. "I don't want you chasing our guest's little girl around and trying to kiss her." "Dad!" cried Jeremy, totally disgusted. "Go cut some rhubarb, Herb," said Mrs. Thatcher. "I'm busy," said Dr. Thatcher. "Doing what?" "Bothering Jeremy." "Herbert Thatcher, you go cut that rhubarb, or you can cook this meal yourself." Dr. Thatcher shrugged. "See that kid?" he said. "She's on your side." He winked at Jeremy, then sauntered out the back door, singing some old song about rhubarb. He tripped over a cat as he went. By 6 o'clock, the house was filled with delicious aromas. Jeremy felt his mouth begin to water as he sat in his room, trying to communicate with Tiamat. He loved it when she sent swirls of color into his head, but he wanted to learn to speak to her more clearly. "Jeremy!" called his mother. "The Huttons are here." "Great," he grumbled. He dragged down the stairs, trying to convince himself it was possible to be nice to Mary Lou. While the adults greeted each other enthusiastically, Mary Lou and Jeremy glared at each other. "Jeremy, why don't you show Mary Lou around the office?" said Dr. Thatcher. "I understand she's a real animal lover." When Jeremy rolled his eyes, his father shot him a look that said very clearly, "Be nice, or you're dead meat." He decided to show Mary Lou the office. "This way," he said, making sure to keep far enough away that she couldn't sneak in a kiss when he wasn't looking. "I'm sorry I barged into your room on Friday," said Mary Lou as they walked down the path behind the house. Jeremy shrugged. "Forget it," he said, opening the office door. "I didn't tell anyone about the dragon," said Mary Lou once they were inside. Jeremy laughed. "Do you think they would have believed you if you had?" "Probably not. Good grief, that's the biggest cat I've ever seen." Mary Lou was standing in front of Fat Pete, who had come in for more stitches that morning. "Probably the crankiest, too," said Jeremy as Mary Lou reached her hand toward the cage. "I wouldn't—" His words were too late. Pete swatted at Mary Lou. "Ouch!" she cried, pulling her hand back. "You rotten thing!" "No sense in getting mad at a cat for being a cat," said Jeremy. "Come on, we've got stuff to put on that." While Jeremy doctored Mary Lou's hand, they started to talk about books. By the time they returned to the house, they were deep in an argument about the Chronicles of Narnia. Jeremy ran up to his room to get Prince Caspian to prove a point to Mary Lou. He found one of Tiamat's teeth beside the bookshelf and deposited it in a collection he had started in his desk. When he left the room, he closed the door carefully to avoid a repeat of the disaster with Grief. Unfortunately, while he was concentrating on shutting the dog out, he forgot to worry about keeping the dragon in. Though Jeremy didn't know it, Tiamat was already in the hall when the door clicked shut. Jeremy rejoined Mary Lou in the living room, but before he could find the page he was looking for, his mother called them to supper. They were eating in the dining room, which proved it was a special occasion, as did the fact that his mother had bought new candles. Jeremy felt a great longing in his head when she lit them. He blinked. The feeling came from Tiamat. "Fire!" she thought happily, flying into the room. Jeremy dropped his fork. Mary Lou gasped. "What's wrong with you two?" asked Dr. Thatcher. "Nothing," they said in unison. "Kids," said Mary Lou's father, as if that explained everything. "Fire!" sang Tiamat in Jeremy's head. She landed on his shoulder and began to crawl down to the table. "No!" thought Jeremy desperately. "Not now! Go away!" Tiamat glared at him angrily. Then she turned and flew from the room. Mrs. Hutton blinked, looking puzzled by the sudden breeze created by Tiamat's wings. Once the dragon was gone, Jeremy felt better, until he heard the yowl from the kitchen. "What in heaven's name was that?" said Dr. Thatcher. He started to his feet, but before he could get away from the table, one of the kitchen cats came streaking into the dining room. "Oh!" cried Mary Lou's mother. "Get it away from me! I can't stand cats!" That was unfortunate, since at that moment 3 more cats came running into the room. Tiamat was flying after them, snapping at their tails. The first cat dashed under the table, so did 2 of the next 3. The fourth, however, which was the one Tiamat was closest to catching, jumped right onto the table. The adults all began to yell at once. With that much noise, Jeremy didn't figure anyone would hear him, so he shouted, "Tiamat, cut that out!" The dragon ignored him. The cat was careening around the table, stepping on people's plates and knocking over glasses. One of the under-table cats began climbing onto Mrs. Hutton's lap. "Get it away!" she screamed. As she jumped onto her feet, the cat sprang forward onto the table. Now there were 2 cats scrambling among the dishes, with Tiamat chasing after both of them. "Herbert!" cried Mrs. Thatcher. "Do something!" Dr. Thatcher dived for one of the cats, missed, and landed face first in the mashed potatoes. A cat ran over his head. Mary Lou's father tried next. His hand came down on the edge of a plate, which sailed into the air, spraying gravy across the room. The commotion attracted Grief, who ran into the room to see what all the excitement was about. He took one look at Tiamat and began barking and lunging at her. His front paws landed on the table. He tried to scramble up to join the chase, but only succeeded in pulling the tablecloth down onto himself. With a resounding crash, everything, plates, candles, silverware, and food, fell to the floor. Grief ran howling from the room. Jeremy looked at the clock. Dinner had started at 6:30. It had taken only until 6:32 to turn the room into a total shambles.